Let me ask you a question. What you gonna do when Hulkamania runs wild on you? Today we're talking about the legend, the larger-than-life icon, the man whose name was bigger than the sport that he came from. We are talking about the one and the only Hulk Hogan. The yellow and the red, the 24-inch pythons, the leg drop, the real American, and more importantly, the reinvention. See, regardless if you loved him, if you booed him, or if you grew up quoting him, Hogan was always relevant. And today we're asking, how can you or your brand do the same? So stick around as we look back on Hulk Hogan and discover 3 ways to reinvent ourselves just like he did. So welcome to the Mind Your Business podcast, the podcast for whatever business is on your mind. Let's get started.
Excellent.
Well, thank you for joining me for another episode of the Mind Your Business podcast. If this brings value to your life, do me a favor. If you're watching on YouTube, like, subscribe, and share this with others. If you're listening by podcast, would you leave a review wherever you listen? This just helps add as much value to as many people as possible. Well, I have to admit, I fell in love with wrestling in the 90s. I have been a fan since I was a child. My all-time favorite, even to this day, is Bret the Hitman Hart. Any of you remember Bret the Hitman Hart, the pink and black attack? He was the best there is, the best there was, and the best there ever will be. He just had this amazing way, to me, of just making everything that he did just look so real. But even as a kid, I knew that Hulk Hogan was the man, that he was the main guy. He was everywhere. So you didn't even have to be a wrestling fan to know who he was. In fact, you didn't even have to live in America. Hogan was global. He was all over the world. He was just iconic. He was the wrestling business. And sadly, he passed away at 71 on Thursday, July 24th, and the entire world responded to his death. It really is still hard to believe, but his passing just made me think, not only about the nostalgia of growing up and watching him literally all of my life, but because of what his career teaches us about staying relevant. As those social media posts were pouring in, and as I saw all the news reports, I couldn't help but be impacted by the impact that Hulk Hogan had on literally the entire world. And I understand that many of you aren't wrestling fans, and that's okay. Our time today surpasses wrestling. It's not all about wrestling, but I want to go back in time, just time travel, because I want to show you the impact that he made on literally pop culture and the world that's around us by being able to reinvent his brand. So let's go back and let me just show you what I'm talking about. Because in the 80s, Hogan put wrestling on the map. He made it mainstream. With Hulkamania, he became this kid-friendly, muscled-up superhero that even the adults loved to cheer. He became famous for those 3 rules, and I bet you can say them. Train, say your prayers, and eat your vitamins. That's right. He was on cereal boxes. He was on Saturday morning cartoons. He was on talk shows. He had his own action figures. And then in 1987, something absolutely changed the game forever. He body slammed Andre the Giant in front of 93,000 people at WrestleMania 3, and it changed the wrestling business forever. But then the 90s came and things began to change, but he reinvented himself and wrestling for the second time. See, the wrestling business just began to lose popularity in the mid-90s. But then in 1996, Hulk Hogan showed up and he saved the day. See, he would shed the red and yellow and he would turn heel, which means he became a bad guy, shock the world and become a bad guy. He joined the New World Order, that NWO. He started wearing black. He grew this stubble beard and he dyed it black. And he played a villain to perfection. See, gone was the real American. He had reinvented himself as Hollywood Hulk Hogan. See, he didn't just change with the times, he shaped them. Once again, he brought wrestling back to the mainstream, and it became a pop culture phenomenon in the late 90s, just like he had done in the 80s. Few can do it once, but Hulk Hogan had done it twice. Then through the 2000s and the 2010s, he was making cameos in pop culture. He showed up everywhere. He was doing reality TV. He was appearing in commercials, and he was still in and out of wrestling. He never left. But even at the time of his passing, at 71 years old, he was leading Real American Beer and Real American Freestyle Wrestling. At 71 years old, he was still relevant. See, in this short walk through time, I hope you can see that Hulk Hogan became a brand, not just a man. He was able to surpass wrestling, his roots where he started, reinventing himself over and over again. And I think this is worth exploring because most people and most brands tend to get stuck. See, we figure out what works once, and then we just do that over and over and over. But the problem with this is that the world changes. Our audiences evolve, and then suddenly that sure thing that we thought will never go wrong, it becomes outdated and it's no longer effective. Think about that mall, your favorite mall brand that just never updated its look or even changed strategies. Can you even remember malls? Exactly. See, that's my point. They're almost extinct. They did not evolve or reinvent. Think about the business leader who refuses to use social media. Do you know some of those still? There was a conversation with an insurance guy who said he didn't need to use social media to sell insurance, that he was hitting all of his goals without it. And the reality is that's fine and that's true. He can continue doing what he's doing if he doesn't want any new customers, because today everyone is on social media. So we tend to rely on the past and what once worked instead of reinventing ourselves. The world rewards relevance, and relevance is the result of intentional reinvention. So what can we learn from Hulk Hogan, the man, the myth, the legend, and the brand? How can you or your brand reinvent itself just like Hogan? Well, I want to offer you 3 ways that I think will be impactful and helpful for you to stay relevant. Number 1, I would say move with momentum. Move with momentum. See, when Hulkamania exploded in the 1980s, it wasn't just a gimmick, it was a movement. He was the main event for 7 of the first 8 WrestleManias. And if you don't know what WrestleMania is, that is the biggest event in the wrestling industry. Thousands upon thousands of people attend, record-breaking crowds year after year since the 80s. And much of that in the beginning was because of Hulk Hogan. Kids everywhere were dressing like Hulk Hogan. Adults were cheering for Hulk Hogan. See, Hulk Hogan was wrestling. That's how impactful that he was. But even that level of success, even the world stardom that he had an expiration to it. Because by the mid-90s, again, the crowd had changed. The appetites for entertainment was different. Those wrestling fans, some of them that had been the little Hulkamaniacs when they were kids, they were now older and they wanted something edgier. See, Hogan's red and yellow, the say your prayers, eat your vitamins, that Real American character just started to feel outdated and it started to feel cheesy, and people were falling out of love with Hulk Hogan. He could have refused to change, but he didn't. He chose to move with the momentum. When one wave was dying down, he was willing to paddle out and catch a new one. And so many companies ride a successful wave, but they ride it all the way to the shore. Think about Blockbuster. They refused to shift to the streaming. They just rode their wave all the way to the shore. Kodak, they reinvented the digital camera, but they didn't embrace it. They rode their wave all the way to the shore. Toys R Us, man, I miss a good Toys R Us, but they were stuck in a brick and mortar mentality when everyone else was going online. They rode that wave all the way to shore. Today, I think about Lego because I think Lego is a great example of intentional reinvention and then moving with momentum. See, there was a time when we got all of our screens that all the kids started playing on their phones, and they were tired of playing with Legos. And the Lego brand, they had to reinvent. They had to catch a new wave of momentum. So they expanded into movies. They expanded into video games. They formed brand new partnerships with other brands like Marvel and Star Wars. And as a result, the 90-year-old toy company is still going strong today. My son loves to play with Legos. See, you don't have to abandon your identity. You just have to recognize when the wave you're on is about to break, and then you have to move with the momentum. Lego did that, Hogan did that, and you should too. Number two, here's what I would say to intentionally reinvent yourself is you need to shock the system. Sometimes, if you're going to reinvent, you have to shock the system. Let me take you back. The year was 1996, and the event was WCW's Bash at the Beach pay-per-view. Hogan in the 80s had defined wrestling with the World Wrestling Federation, the WWF. But when he switched over to WCW, the little-known brand, well, by the late 90s, he had brought it back and made it even more popular than where he started in the WWF. But back then, at this moment, WCW had not become what it was going to be. See, on this night at this pay-per-view, there were two guys in the ring, and they were being attacked, beaten by the bad guys. And then suddenly, Hulk Hogan comes running out. The crowd is going wild. Their hero, the red and yellow, was coming to save the day, except he didn't. He got in the ring, he put the famous leg drop on the good guy and his longtime friend, the Macho Man Randy Savage. On this night, to make history and reinvent himself, Hogan joined the bad guys, and just like that, the NWO, or the New World Order, was born. See, fans were furious. They started throwing trash into the ring, while Hogan just stood there, told them to shut up and listen. It's amazing to think about the risk that he had in the reinvention of himself. Think about it. The man who had once told them to train, say their prayers, and take their vitamins had done the unthinkable. He had betrayed them all. And guess what? It worked. His heel turn launched the most successful second act in wrestling history. And sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is to surprise people. Not for shock value, but to reset expectations. Think of Apple in the 90s. Apple in the 90s was a dying company. And then Steve Jobs came back, and then he changed everything. He changed the designs, he changed the product lines, and all of the prices. At first, people were skeptical. They said this will never work. But the shock to the system brought Apple back to life. I think about this every time I see an Old Spice commercial. Remember when Old Spice was your dad's cologne? Well, today, Old Spice is known for those really bizarre and sort of funny ads. See, those ads were a shock to the system, and it just made them cool again. But most brands don't do that. Most brands just keep doing the same thing over and over, even though it has stopped working. They fear that a shock to the system might cost them what they've built, so they never grow beyond it. But Apple, Old Spice, and Hulk Hogan all shocked the system and even built bigger brands. But before I move on, I really know this is a tough one. I know this one is hard to do. There's a lot of risk that's involved with shocking the system, and it's easier said than done. So let me offer some practical tips here that I think will practically help you begin the process of shocking the system that you're in. And I think this first one is important. I think you need to honor your heritage, but don't become hostage to it. Honor where you've been, but don't let it hold you in the past. Hogan didn't deny Hulkamania. He just outgrew it. See, many of the elements that made Hulk Hogan still existed. They were just different. He was able to honor the past without being held hostage to it. And then number two, I think you need to pay attention to the pulse of people. Pay attention to the pulse of people. See, reinvention isn't about chasing trends and just trying to run and chase everything that changes, but it's about staying in sync with the people that you're trying to serve. And if you notice the people you're trying to serve are changing, then you need to reinvent to meet those needs. See, if you feel like the momentum of the masses have put your brand on life support, then you need to shock the system. You need to serve your audience. So if the real American, the red and yellow, isn't working, if that version of Hulk Hogan is outdated, well, then you give them Hollywood Hogan. Just pay attention to the pulse of your people. Remember, you're serving your audience, so get their pulse. And then number three, I would say dare to be different. Just dare to be different. The world is full of safe brands that no one talks about. Be the one that dares to change. I mean, think about it. Can you imagine what it was like to sit around the table at the Old Spice marketing meeting when someone just said, I've got a crazy idea, and they pitched one of those crazy commercials that we've all seen? Yeah, it seemed absolutely crazy. Or can you imagine when someone said to Hulk Hogan, hey, listen, we know that you have built your entire career. We know that you're known worldwide for being a superhero. But what if you throw all that away? What if you go out there and you insult all the people who love you? See, dare to be different and shock the system. And then finally, to intentionally reinvent your brand, number three, break the boundaries. Break those boundaries. Hulk Hogan may have wrestled in rings, but his name was in boardrooms, his name was in toy aisles, movie theaters, and in conversations from people around the world. His brand found its way to cartoons, to lunchboxes, to t-shirts, to movies, to TV shows, and believe it or not, the Hulk Hogan grill. I bet you didn't even know George Foreman wasn't the only one. He even had his own grill. Hulk Hogan was bigger than wrestling. That's why even people who've never watched a match still know his name. The goal of a great brand isn't just to be great at what you do. It's to be known for that great thing that you do. Think about that. I'm going to say that again. The goal of a great brand isn't just to be great at what you do. It's to be known for that great thing that you do. That's your goal, to be known for the great thing that you accomplish. Think about it. Nike doesn't just sell shoes. It sells motivation. Disney doesn't just make movies. They make magic. Hulk Hogan wasn't just a wrestler. He was a larger-than-life inspiration. And just because you start out in one niche, in one area with one target, doesn't mean you have to stay there. Think about it. Just like Hulk Hogan, The Rock, he started out as a wrestler, and then he reinvented himself as a movie star, as a producer, as a fitness brand, as an entrepreneur, and as a motivational icon. He started in one area, but he didn't stay there. He's now a global brand. He's got clothes with Under Armour. He's got his own energy drink, his own tequila brand, and his own production company. See, he's not just a person, he's a platform. And if you build a name that stands for something, you'll never be boxed into just one thing. Hogan wasn't just known as a wrestler. He surpassed that. He was able to break those boundaries. So if you're going to break boundaries, you have to be bigger than the box that you're in. Being bigger just simply means stretching into other areas that complement your brand. These are areas that are natural extensions of who you are. And if you want to begin attracting those opportunities, don't just promote what you do, promote who you are. What you do can always be reinvented in creative ways, but who you are is foundational. Who you are is what people are connecting to. Who you are is what people are buying into. And that opens the doors of creativity for you to reinvent yourself over and over again. See, Hulk Hogan may have passed away, but His legacy, it hasn't. And it's not because of just one moment or one era. It's because of his ability to evolve. He always stayed relevant. He was always able to reinvent himself, and his legacy will live past his life. So if you're a leader, if you're a business owner, if you're a creative or someone that's just out there trying to build a brand, don't wait until you're irrelevant to change. Reinvention is not a response to crisis. It's the strategy for staying alive. So to get started with this, just ask yourself these 3 questions. This will help you get the ball rolling. It'll give you an inventory of where you are and what you need to do. And the first question I think you need to ask yourself is, where am I stuck? Is there an area of my life? Is there an area of my organization? Is there an area in my relationships? Where am I stuck? And when you identify the area that you're stuck in, ask yourself this question: what needs to evolve? What needs to change? What needs to be reinvented? If I'm stuck here and something is holding me back, well, what is it that needs to change so that I can move forward? And then the third thing I would say is, what changes am I afraid to make, but I know that I should? Oftentimes, when there are changes that you know need to be made, but you're waiting for whatever reason it may be, fear, it may be frustration, it may be the unknown, who knows, only you. But whatever changes that you're afraid to make, but you know you should, that's a great indication that it's time to reinvent yourself. And these are 3 questions that'll help you push yourself forward to begin making those changes. Now, when you answer these 3 questions, then I want you to move with the momentum. I want you to shock the system and then break the boundaries. That's your path to reinventing yourself. Hey, thanks for tuning in to the Mind Your Business podcast. If you found this helpful, will you like, subscribe, share this with a friend? Please leave a review. This helps add as much value to as many people as possible. And until next time, train, say your prayers, eat your vitamins, and mind your business. I'll see you on the next one.